using their spare limbs.
Exactly.
I'm assuming, that might make an ass out of you. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Bay Area stats.
Well, what happens when you say, I presume? Then you make
presume instead of assume?
Yeah. Welcome to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host. Here's our format. A bunch of guys sitting around a bar. There's no bar. Having drinks. There's no drinks either. But we're talking business, and you, the audience, are listening in. The Best of Investing is actually a radio show that has been around since August 2010, and it airs every Saturday on Fox News Radio, 9:10 a.m. at 1 p.m. Now, we're not a political show. We're strictly business, so everyone will be happy with that. Remember, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. Are you ready? Let's go. Everybody, so away we go. Welcome, you're listening to the Best of Investing on News Talk 910. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. And for those of you listening for the first time, because we have a lot of new listeners, here's our format. A few guys sitting around a bar having drinks, without the drinks, talking business with you, the audience, listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm pleased to have as my co-host, Mark Hanf, California's fastest growing private lender, and Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Now write that number down, 888-912-1190, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia question. And today's trivia theme is classic understatements in the movies. You guys will understand when I get into the question. And our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. And go ahead and click the like on Facebook. Is that what people are supposed to do?
Right? I think so, yeah. Like us on Facebook.
Like us on Facebook, that's what they say.
It's something like that.
Something like that, okay. And we're also on television, Comcast Channel 26 on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. Now, today's special guest is Karen Simpkins-Hankins, who's going to discuss turning the tables on your local bank. Hopefully our local bankers are not listening. And Karen, welcome to the Best of Investing.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Good. Okay, here's a couple of quick questions for you here. What are the 4 biggest mortgage mistakes that consumers make?
Well, over my 37-year history as a mortgage broker, I found that consumers consistently really make 4 big mistakes. One is shopping for an interest rate or shopping for a loan by interest rate alone.
Okay.
2, not asking if a loan has a prepayment penalty.
Wow, because I would on personal residences, do they even have prepayment penalties anymore?
No, some do.
Some do.
Okay. Not like it used to, but still some do.
Some do. Okay. Go ahead.
And taking the one-size-fits-all loan.
Okay.
By that I mean a 30-year fixed rate when there might be a lot of other products that would be better for them. Letting that fear factor get involved. And then number 4 is doing nothing because they think they don't qualify.
Oh, okay.
Well, Karen, you're here with 3 money guys, so we're actually both hard money and conventional mortgage, and so we're all kind of in the same vein here. We provide capital to consumers and investors for different reasons, but you've got an interesting some insider tips on how to get the best interest rate. How do you, as a borrower, how do you go about doing that?
Well, I think that so much of the time that consumers, they'll go down to their local bank without really shopping. They think they're just supposed to go down to wherever they have their checking account, and they will ask them, what is your 30-year fixed rate or your home loan, instead of really doing a little bit of research and seeing what rates actually are. And so much of the time, it's a little misleading for consumers because everyone tells you that you just check out the 10-year Treasury when the 30-year bonds, along with the 25-day moving average, is usually a better indicator of what rates we're doing. And what I always did is I followed the rates on an hourly basis primarily. And there was a lot of times where I had live pricing that I could catch a deal for somebody if I knew that there was a specific economic report coming out, like the Consumer Price Index, or the Fund's Fed rate was going to change, or the Fed minutes were going to be published. A lot of those have a huge impact on what rates are going to be doing. So it's important that people have a little bit of understanding how interest rates change, and that the mortgage person that they're working with understands that and is not just looking at a rate sheet.
So do you have a suggestion as to whether people are better off working with like an independent mortgage loan originator versus walking into your bank?
Well, I'm a big advocate of working with a mortgage broker, or at least a mortgage company that provides broker services, because it just gives the consumer more options. You know, I had 50 or 60 different sources of money. There was a lot of lenders that I had that were my favorites, but it gave people the ability to do a one-stop shop kind of a thing, and also allow me to custom fit the loan to their particular situation.
Karen, I think you have to let the audience know that you're not a subsidiary of RPM, which is my company, because everything you're saying is exactly what we are. We're a mortgage bank, and we also broker to most of the other places. But when someone comes to you, what do you suggest? What kind of questions, important questions, should they ask the lender?
Well, I have 9 critical questions in my new book, Need Mortgage Info Now. And those 9 critical questions talk about how you can interview a lender. I mean, we're all led to believe that the consumer is in control of the lender, when in actuality, they're in the driver's seat if they know the right questions to ask. And so I usually recommend that, number one, they ask if they have what their pre-approval process is like. Do they actually do a full credit approval, or is it just a crunch a few numbers and do a pre-qualify letter, because that can cause problems down the road if you do not have a good loan officer. I have them ask them if they have a credit approval letter, and if it is an actual credit approval letter, again, not the pre-qualify letter, and that will they custom fit that credit approval letter to the particular offer that the consumer wants to make. I was a huge advocate of actually custom fitting my approval letters to the particular offer that the consumer wanted, you know, on the house that they wanted to offer, because it protects their bargaining power with the seller. And if the seller, let's say for example, that they qualify for a $300,000 house, but they want to make an offer on one at $265,000, if the seller knows they qualify for $300,000, it kind of gives away their bargaining power. But if I custom fit the letter to $265,000 or whatever it is they wanted to offer, even if I had to issue it 2 or 3 different times, it was just more consumer friendly.
And they qualify for 187 months of loan. I'm just kidding.
Pardon me?
They qualify for not a 30-year mortgage, but 187 months. No more, no less.
They qualify for the first 10 payments only.
You can buy a 10 with that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I know a lot of listeners out there are going to be asking, how do I eliminate junk fees and reduce closing costs? How do you do that?
That's one of the things that I
not gonna
like
pay it.
people to look at too. Is, I mean, with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and all the changes they're making to the good faith estimates, it's becoming harder and harder for the consumer to shop. And so, again, I go through in my program and let them know what typical closing costs are, and let them understand that you have title insurance and you have escrow, and every lender that you shop are going to utilize those same services. So there shouldn't be much difference in escrow fees or title insurance fees.
Except for well, let me ask you a question. If you refinance within, 6 months, usually the Alta policy or the CLTA policy, you automatically get a break on that? Is that automatic, or is that, do you have to ask the escrow company?
Well, I found that it's important to ask, because a lot of times it doesn't happen automatically.
Yeah, and
So-
I don't think how significant the break is anyhow.
I always recommend that they ask, and then I also let them know what fees, in my opinion, are junk fees, like doc prep fees and wire fees and processing fees, and that not every lender charges them, and so that it's important to compare apples to apples.
Man, I thought every lender did charge those fees. Interesting.
No, they have different amounts and different names for the fees they charge.
There you go.
How's a poor mortgage broker to make a living?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not totally true, because I didn't charge any of them.
Yeah, but that's not the broker, it's the lender.
So when you say that you don't charge any of them, are you actually the person that procures the loan, or do you then send them to a bank or a broker?
I was brokering, but I've seen not only the lender charging those fees, but I've also seen the brokers charging those fees as well, so they're getting a double hit.
I had to ask Robert off air what procured means, because again, I only had 6 years of high school. Okay, we are going to cut to our first commercial break, and before we do that, Karen is going to be kind enough to give one book away to the first caller who calls 888-912-1190 and says, please give me her book. And what's the name of the book?
Need mortgage info now.
Need mortgage info now. So, okay, we're going to cut to our first commercial break, and here is the trivia question. And again, the theme is classic understatements in the movies. Okay, in Ghostbusters, Bill Murray says, well, there's something you don't see every day. What was he referring to? And we will be right back.
So I couldn't hear her at the very end when she announced her book. I didn't hear her through my headphones. Just want to double check and make sure she's going through the system.
I'm hearing her.
You're here? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
But it may have been one of the first Slimers.
So keep in mind when you're asking her a question, she can't hear you by talking into here.
Yeah, you got to be really loud.
That's why whenever we do this, I'm turning my mic and talking that way.
It still catches them on
Because
there.
earlier you were like you're in your voice actually you're kind of talking really low. You need to enunciate.
Yell, Robert, yell. Okay, just getting set up for the second segment here.
Yeah, I got cut off before I got to say that you get to ask them what kind of commission you want to make.
Oh, okay. Well,
What is
that's
that?
Commission on what?
For the loan officer, what kind of commission they want to make.
so is that one of your recommended questions to always ask?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't see why not. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we'll get into that. Okay.
I mean, I know there's a lot of. I attended even though I'm not a conventional lender, I attended a boot camp 1 year, and they were of the mindset if you weren't making, even in this new environment, if you weren't making 1.5 to 2 points per loan, just walk away. They weren't into the whole discounting fees type of thing. So.
But if you broker loans, the commission is set. You don't have a choice.
Really? Huh. Okay.
Okay.
I didn't know
Well,
that.
I mean, that's not true either. I mean, you can stipulate with the lender what fee you want to make, and then you have a contract with them to do that.
I tell you what, Karen, hold on to that thought, because I want to get that on the air.
Okay. Sounds good.
We like arguing a little bit. Just a little bit. It makes for good radio. Okay, you guys ready?
I'm ready.
All right, hold on a second here.
And no, I don't know the answer to the trivia questions.
Okay. Does anyone know the answer?
I thought it was when when he opened the door to Sigourney Weaver's apartment and saw her, but I guess it was one of the prior
well, here,
Slimes.
you can ask that one. Okay, ready? Okay, we have silence here. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my famous co-host and the best private money lender people know is Mark Hahn of Pacific Private Money,
Well,
and Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. All right, and we have in the studio here Karen, who's going to get back with us in just a second, but we have to answer the question that we asked when we cut to the first commercial break. In Ghostbusters, Bill Murray says, well, there's something you don't see every day. What was he referring to?
I thought that might be when he looked in the apartment of Sigourney Weaver, and the apartment was blown away, and she was there in her siren outfit.
That is not correct. The answer is the giant Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, that's right.
Okay, we are in the studio here with Karen. Karen, what is your full name?
Karen Simpson Hankins.
There we go. You like that?
Yeah, I
okay.
do.
Now, Karen, when we cut to a break, you were going to mention something about the commissions.
Well, just one of the 9 critical questions that I talk about is I always recommend people to ask the loan officer they're going to be working with if they work on commission, and if so, what kind of commission do they want to make.
Okay.
Well, that's actually a good idea, and I think a lot of people I know. I've certainly felt this way. It's almost kind of like you're afraid to ask that question, like it's none of your business or something. But in fact, so you recommend. So how much money do you want to make on this one, John?
As much as I can.
And I usually recommend that 1 to 1.5% is pretty typical for the industry.
My understanding is at least when you broker a loan, the Dodd-Frank regulations stipulate that the percentage you make on a loan is set, and that's not negotiable.
Well, it depends upon the contract that you have with the lender. When you sign up with a wholesale lender, you have to let them know at that point what commission you want to make, and then you make the same amount on every transaction that you fund through that particular lender.
Yes, and at least my familiarity with the loans we broker to and anyone else that brokers, that set rate has to be the same for all the banks you deal with. You can't have one bank that you go to and make 1 point and another bank you go to and make 2 points. And in fact, some of the brokers who work in areas where the housing prices are much less might have to, or to make money, they might have to set a higher percentage that they make on a loan if their average loan is going to be $50,000 or $60,000. But they're stuck with that higher percentage. Even if they wanted to do $1 million loan, they would have to charge that same percentage.
Right, and that's true with the Frank Dodd stuff that came out in the last year and a half or so, that they have refined that. And that was good to protect this consumer, because I was seeing with a lot of the specialty products in the heyday with the pick-a-payment plans and that kind of thing, people making 4 and 5% on one transaction.
Wow.
That sounds like hard money.
Yeah, really.
I can't.
I know.
I
Even
can't.
harder.
This was on a conforming $200,000 loan.
Wow. So Karen, really, how should people negotiate to get the best mortgage terms in this new market?
Well, I think a lot, of course, it's pretty credit score driven, but I think that the key to all of it is just be educated, to know what your options are, to work on your credit history and your overall financial profile, so that you do have some bargaining power when you go in. And then shop. Make sure that you're comparing apples to apples, and that every single item on the good faith estimate, as well as the amount of commission that the loan officer is going to make, or the amount of a loan origination fee that the lender's charging, is disclosed to you in its entirety.
Well, you're a tough cookie. I'd hate to be the lender with you.
But that's the way to be, and that's what the legislation is trying to make.
That's true.
In fact, part of the Dodd-Frank regulations are now, when you go to a broker or a bank and they give you a good faith estimate, if at the end, in closing, the fees are greater, we made a mistake, or we don't charge that, we charge this now, they're not allowed to increase the amount from the original good faith estimate.
That's only on, is that only
And I
on
agree with
residential?
that. I used to, for 25 years, I had a guarantee on my good faith estimate when I quoted somebody.
Residential.
I would be within $100 on my actual closing costs when I went to closing, or I would pay the difference. And 99.9% of the time, unless I accidentally made a mistake, I was within $50. And so it was incredible marketing tool for me, and it never cost me anything because I was always accurate.
Wow.
And as Edward mentioned, he asked, I mean, that's not so prevalent in commercial lending, or it's not even applicable in commercial lending.
Right.
It's mostly residential 1 to 4 units. And when people are looking for a place to buy, I mean, I have some clients, I'm looking on my own, I don't want to deal with the realtor, or what's your thoughts about that?
Well, I always recommend dealing with a realtor. I'm a big advocate of that, primarily because they're going to know more about the neighborhoods, whether the neighborhood is improving or deteriorating. They're going to be able to give a consumer advice about what's going on with zoning, if there's the potential for a new freeway coming in that might affect the saleability down the road. So I always highly recommend using a realtor, as well as they just are really helpful in the negotiation process. And the average real estate contract these days are like 10 pages long, and then you have about 15 more addendums that go along with it. And also they help with getting the home inspection done, and help with any kind of repairs or negotiating on items that come up with a loan application.
Okay. Hey, Karen, there was you'd mentioned something about credit scores before, and I wanted to find out what do you see as a way to improve your credit score?
Well, I'm a big advocate of doing a lot of the work yourself and staying away from credit repair companies and rapid rescore kind of thing, and that to understand credit policy and understand what promotes good credit, by making your payments on time and limiting the amount of charge cards that you have, and knowing that if the balance on your charge card is above 50% of the credit limit, that's going to have a ding on your credit score. So just understanding the credit process, going out once a year and getting an annual free credit report, which they're entitled to, and know that if the information that's on their credit report is being reported correctly, or if they need to do some cleaning up. Because what I saw happen is they go out and they get pre-approved, and they go out and they are pre-qualified in most cases. They go out, they find their dream home, they make an offer, they get accepted, they get into the whole loan process, and their credit report is actually pulled. And then something shows up that they didn't know was there, and they've got to get it fixed within the 30-day closing, and everybody's panic-stricken.
Yeah, I find it kind of interesting. A lot of people don't know that you can get a free credit report, once a year, and if there's fraud, then you can get even more than that. But a lot of people don't know that, and they go to some of these websites, and they have to pay for their credit report.
Right.
I've always heard too that that a great way that a lot of people don't know about to increase your credit score significantly is always make sure you're carrying no more than a 30% balance on your credit cards based on your credit limit.
Right.
That is
if
true.
If you get over 50% of the balance on the limit, it's like a 35 or 40 point ding to your credit score.
And personally, I found that hard to do. It's like, okay, you got a credit card with the $5,000 or $7,500 limit. It's really easy to carry a balance that's about 50 to 50% ish, but it's really like that 30% is kind of a magic number.
I got a question for you. You're carrying it from 1 month to the next, or just
when they pull your
using it?
credit. No,
Well,
using it is one thing.
Well, because remember, you could have a situation where, I pay my credit cards every single month off, but I might get more than, 60%.
I think you're absolutely right. So if you use,
It's carrying a balance
From 1 month to the next.
1 month to the next.
Oh, okay.
But when they pull your credit, if you have a $10,000 limit and you pay it off every month, when they pull your credit, it's going to show a balance. It's going to show a minimum payment. And if you happen to have bought something and it's high, then my suggestion to people is we'll redo it. You pay it down to less than 30%.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But at least when my company, when we pull a credit report, the first page says, here's your credit score, and here's how much your credit score could increase. Look at the next pages for some suggestions.
Oh, that's good.
Which is a really good.
That's really good.
hint.
Karen, thank you so much for Karen Simpkins Hankins joining us in the studio here, and appreciate you giving away a book to one of our lucky listeners too.
Thank you.
All right.
Great. Well,
All right.
thanks again for joining us in the studio here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we are going to go to our second commercial break, and here is the trivia question, and it goes like this. What was the name of the movie in which Tom Hanks says, "Houston, we have a problem"? And we'll be right back. Boy, today's just been...
Wow.
Ah!
We need Ghostbusters for that.
You know what? I think it's all Ghostbusters' fault.
it is, yeah, ouch.
Not too bad.
But
Just over a little bit. Okay.
we are ready.
Okay, we'll get into email time.
Yes.
And I have an interesting article here about the French are fleeing. They're leaving because taxes are going up too much.
I thought it was maybe
And-
French fries were.
And they're
Birds or
fleeing to.
Anywhere else. Okay, ready? There we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money and Robert Chipt of RPM Mortgage. When we got to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question. What was the name of the movie in which Tom Hanks says, "Houston, we have a problem"? Anyone?
That was Apollo Lucky 13.
Apollo Lucky 13. See, if it was an Apollo like 18 or something, they wouldn't have had a problem.
Right.
But because it was Lucky 13, they did. Okay, we're going to get right into email time here. Mark, we have an email from a listener who says, I've heard you say in the past that you only lend in California. Why is that?
Well, because, technically speaking, it's because I'm a licensed California real estate broker, and we make private and hard money loans to people in California under that license. And I could lend in other states because there are different licensing requirements from state to state, and my California broker's license does allow me to lend in certain states, but I choose not to because basically at the beginning of my business I decided that I wanted to focus on the area that I knew best, which is Northern California. I'm a local Northern California I was born and raised in Northern California, and I've been in real estate in Northern California for over 30 years. So it's the area that I know, and it's the area that I'm comfortable with. And because the way we fund our loans, we're using private individual investors to fund our real estate loans, I feel comfortable recommending to my investors loans that are secured by property in California. So we do also lend in Southern California as well. I have familiarity, and I've got people in my office who are very familiar with Southern California regions, but for the most part, my personal experience in real estate for 30 years has been in Northern California, and that's generally where we stay. So, and I always recommend when people call me, and I do get calls from all over the country because, thanks to the internet and thanks to Google searches, I get people calling, and I think today, in fact, I fielded a call from a guy in West Virginia, and it's like, I just told him, Google search West Virginia hard money, or Georgia
Sure.
hard money, or Chicago hard money, wherever you're calling from, because your best bet, if you're looking for, alternative or unconventional financing because your bank is telling you no, your best bet is always to try to find a resource that's local to you. Because I have found that those people who say, those companies that advertise we lend nationally, well, maybe they do, but if they're far away from you, they're going to charge you fees, and it's going to be expensive. There's no free lunch.
Or are they just going to broker it out to somebody
Well,
else?
that might be too. They'll either
Yeah.
broke it out to someone local to you, or they'll charge you to fly out and look at the property, or just,
Oh,
they
my
have to
God.
do their due diligence. So it's, so there's, again, I always recommend work with somebody local.
Yeah, well, I remember seeing sometimes there were 6 brokers involved, and each one said that they wanted a point. Well, the deal never got done.
Well,
Because,
right, so-
no one's going to pay 6 points on it.
referral after referral.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's
You're better off
getting
going
it.
to a local guy.
Yes.
So
yes.
you're in another state, and you call somebody in Southern California, who then calls somebody back in your state, and so it's a big. In fact, it's funny because I've gotten calls from brokers on the East Coast saying, "I got a client who owns property in San Francisco." It's like, really?
Yeah.
How did you get the call? Well, he found me on the internet.
Yeah, no,
Wow.
we were actually,
Wow.
when we were doing hard money, we had the same thing.
Yeah.
We exact same sort of thing. I mean, it was great because we ended up doing a good loan, but yeah, it was kind of funny how it got from one end to the other.
Now, Mark, I'm sure a lot of people, and me included, when you say we have programs that'll do 100% financing with hard money, that's at least an anomaly, not what most people are used to. Could you explain that?
It
a
is an
little bit?
anomaly, and generally, the way we do 100% financing in this new market, it's not one loan that basically provides all the financing. It's generally a 1-2 combination, a first and a second. And the first would be at what would be normal private money rates, which might be anywhere from, say, 10 to 11% on average, and maybe 3 to 4 points in cost for a, say, 70% of the purchase price. But then the remainder of the capital is going to come from a number of lenders that exist in the Bay Area here that have a business model of where they lend in second position. Now, their money is more expensive, and oftentimes they want to participate in the profit. So if you're looking to buy, fix, and flip, they come in they come in this very similar to an equity partner, and so they are going to share in the profits in some manner. And these lenders, I've got about 20 of them in my database, and they all have slightly different pricing strategies. But we've been doing a number of deals recently where the borrower, the rehabber, has only had to come in with maybe $10,000 to $20,000 on, say, a $200,000 or $250,000 all-in cost for a project. And that would include your purchase price, your rehab money, your holding costs. So it's It's pretty novel, and it doesn't work in every situation. You got to be able to make sure you're buying the property correctly.
No, but it's great. It's great for
Good
your
profit split.
clients because for
It
the
is
most
good.
part,
It's incredible.
yeah,
Yes.
because you have effectively another guarantor, even though it's not
Right.
personally guaranteed.
It's a relatively new product. A year ago, we didn't have this. In some circles, they call it a SAM loan, and SAM is SAM, and that stands for Shared Appreciation Mortgage. And so again, it is 100% financing, but it's a first and second combination, and it's great for people trying to get back into real estate or get into real estate for the first time, or if you don't have a strong track record and you're looking for a way to break in. There's a lot of reasons why it's worth considering.
But, yeah,
So
what
there's
kind
probably a lot of people that were carpenters, or they would
Yeah,
buy a
exactly.
house themselves and
Yeah.
sell and trade it, and they've been out of business, don't have the capital to do that,
or maybe the credit score,
or
you
the
know.
credit score, whatever.
I've actually gotten a call from a number of contractors who've investigated this, and we've done some deals just like this with the first second
Now,
combination for contractors.
do you refer that second out, or they've already come with someone who has the second equity
I'm
position?
typically getting the phone call from the borrower who needs high percentage financing, and then based on the particulars of the applicant, where the property is, I'll pick up the phone and call
Okay.
one or more secondary lenders and
And
ask them if this is a
you-
deal that they do.
Okay, the first mortgage, what LTV are you doing?
About 70% of the purchase price.
Wow, that's
And so
pretty high.
so the second would come in with the remaining down payment, the 30% plus closing costs, and money for rehab, and even possibly money for the holding period costs, like the interest during
So,
the 6
so
months.
it's sort of like a private construction loan where they want to make sure that there's enough money on the table to complete the
Exactly.
project
Yeah,
and
exactly.
carry everything.
What kind of rates is the second usually charging here?
Well, it's not so much the rates, because it might be 3 points and 12% for that second. It's how much of a back-end participation do they want us, it could be anywhere from 25 to 50% share of the profit, so it
Okay.
could be
And
expensive.
Yeah.
is there a contractual assumption that it's going to be put back on the market and sold within a certain period of time?
Generally, yes, yeah.
They don't
yeah.
want to collect 50% of the rents for the next 3 years.
That's correct. It's
Yeah.
usually only in a buy, fix, and flip situation.
Yeah, that contractor better have a very sharp pencil.
Do you still see as many of those as there had been? Is that market tightening up with the lack of inventory, or with the...
Well, it is getting harder with prices going up. So again, you really have to be good at making offers that allow you to acquire a property at a good price. There has to be enough of a profit potential profit in the project for it to make sense for you to get an
And time,
expensive
I mean,
second.
things always take more time, too.
Right,
That's-
is it a
because
90-day flip, is it a 6-month flip,
I wonder how many of those second mortgage holders are gonna end up owning the property.
Well, some will. I mean, look at it's it's not a perfect market, but the good news is that it's an opportunity and it's another product out there for people who are looking to get back into real estate.
In your experience, of a lot of the places that the purchases happen, are they just regular listings, or do they tend more to be foreclosed properties, or bank-owned properties, or short sales?
We're
or-
finding that the best acquisition in today's market are via short sales. If it's on the MLS, you're probably going to have to pay more than you want to pay based on what you think it will sell after repairs.
But aren't short sales that are listed on the multiple listing service?
Not all of
I
them.
thought the banks wouldn't accept less than the amount owed unless they saw it was offered on the open market, so they knew it was a fair price.
I'm still getting applications from people who are in a short sale situation that was not on the public market. So there are people out there that are, door knocking on people in pre-foreclosure, so.
Well, okay, now, we're gonna cut to a break because we took a little bit of time, and we're going, when we come
I
back.
hogged the whole segment
That's okay, that's pretty, it's interesting stuff. And because, audience, you're gonna wanna stay.
We got you going.
That's right, audience, you're gonna wanna stay with us because the email that we received from Robert is very worthwhile for the audience to
Indeed.
listen to. So, here is the third trivia question. In what movie does the sportscaster say, "just a bit outside"? And we'll be right back.
And his theme song was Wild Thing.
Yeah, that's right, very good.
You make my thing spring.
We're on television, Mark. Yes. Thank you very much.
That's how I'm gonna open up the program.
Yeah, excellent. Just the regular song, right?
That was an overtime segment, huh?
Wow.
It's okay.
But I'm, yeah, that's Major League, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
good.
who was
Too much
crying?
Tom Hanks.
Was it Madonna? Was
Neither
it,
one.
No,
It was some unknown.
Oh, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't Rosie O'Donnell. It wasn't any of them. It was some.
He's one of those stars.
It was. Was there any other
Stuff?
tidbits? I mean,
Mark has some
I
stuff.
brought, but it's it's kind of more of the same. It's just Sean O'Toole
Sean
wrote his
O'Toole.
predictions for 2013.
Fiscal
It's
cliff.
all the same stuff we've been talking about. That there won't be a second wave of foreclosures. We're been there, done that. It's
There might be a
it's all
second
over.
what?
He says there's at the end of the blog he says, and no, there will not be a wave of foreclosures. But it talks about it's longer than we have. We can save
Okay.
for another time.
okay,
Yeah.
because I'm getting to this just a little bit after.
Yeah.
Okay.
After Robert, you can get into that.
Yeah, just okay. Ready? We're going. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Honf of Pacific Private Money and Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. When we cut to the third commercial break, we ask this trivia question: in what movie does the sportscaster say "just a bit outside"? Mark?
Major League.
Major League. That is
Pitched by
correct.
the
Remember
Wild thing.
Bob Uecker, Mr. Baseball. Okay, Robert, we got an email here for you. Audience, listen to this one. I have heard some of these advertisers say on the air, various radio stations, that they can offer great rates to people after they have refinanced just a short time ago. I've heard those commercials too.
Yeah, me too.
Are they real?
Well, yes, they're real. If you've refinanced and you have a loan that doesn't have a prepayment penalty, which is close to 100% of the loans don't have prepayment penalties. There's some banks that, if you have a 30-year fixed mortgage, you almost certainly don't have a prepayment penalty, and you probably would know going into it. So if you don't, you have a new loan, and if something happened and you figured that you can get a new loan and have it worthwhile and save money, then you can proceed immediately and get another loan.
And how many of your clients have come to you, either new clients or old ones, who have refinanced fairly recently and then asked you to refinance again?
There was only one call this morning.
Oh my God! Because I've heard those commercials where they're saying, if you're paying higher than $399,
Yeah.
give us a call, and it's like, are you kidding me? Wow.
Yes, but in refinances, normally at the rates they're talking about, there's some closing costs.
Sure.
Although you can get loans where the bank will give you a slightly higher interest rate and then they'll absorb the closing costs. It's called a no-cost loan, and it's a little bit of a misnomer. It's no cost, but you're paying a higher percentage rate than you would be if you paid the cost on your
Are
own.
we going to be getting into those loans again where people can't afford them?
Not unless they go to Mark, and even and even Mark,
No, but Mark,
they have
he
to,
doesn't invest
they
in it,
have
so-
to they have
yeah.
to qualify
Oh, sure.
stringently for any loan. It's not like it used
Yeah.
to be. There, once in a while, I get emails from people that say, "Well, we have a no income qualifier," but I'm not sure how they do that. Anybody I know that goes for a loan, even if it's a hard money loan,
Full doc, baby.
they have to be able to prove that they have the ability to repay that
Yeah.
loan, or else, even in a hard money loan, they could have problems with trying to collect the money from that loan.
Now, going back to what we were just talking about a moment ago, that I've heard advertising say that, even if it's higher than a certain rate like $399, you can refi at no cost to you, as opposed to what's been called, buying down your rate, which is actually where you say, well, I'll pay the closing costs for a new loan, but I'll get my 4 1/4 will now be 3 3/4 or something
Well,
like that.
the reality is, anytime you do a loan, the people handling the loan are going to have some costs.
Right, they gotta
They're going
get
to
paid.
they're going to go to a title company. The title company is going to charge. The title company isn't going to do it for free, and those costs amount to well over $2,000, usually close to $3,000. Anytime you get a loan, the bank will say, we'll give you this interest rate, and it'll cost you $3,000. Or we can give you a slightly higher interest rate, depending on how much the loan is, and the bank will absorb those costs. Or you can pay more money and get an even lower interest rate. And that's a dance of figuring that I
Yeah.
like to go through with all my clients and say, then it gets involved. How long are you going to stay in the house? You're going to
Exactly.
stay in the house for 6 months, and then your kids are graduating and they're moving to college and you're going to go to the East Coast. Then or 1 year,
And the
whatever it
rate's
is.
going to drop some more in
Yeah,
6 months.
well,
or a year.
if you're not going to stay there a long time, it's better to get a loan where the banks will absorb the cost. If you're going to stay there a long time, it's better to probably get a lower interest rate and absorb the costs. You don't have to pay them out of pocket usually. You can add them to the loan.
Or as Karen says, negotiate with them and do both.
Yeah,
Try to
I
get
don't know.
both.
I don't know about negotiating with banks. They have that stipulation where they can slide up and down. They have a formula for how much they're going to make, and
Okay.
that's more in financial planning. Really, it depends
Sure.
on what your plans are, what your situation
Okay,
is.
but we don't have too much time left, but I wanted to just touch on something really quickly here. The French are fleeing. A proposed tax hike, but proposed tax hikes is leading hundreds of wealthy French to consider leaving the country and putting their homes on the market. Because apparently they're thinking about a 75% tax rate on salaries higher than 1.3 million, which is up from less than 50%. So can you imagine it's, let's say, 48%, they want to go up to
That's-
75%.
that's
French are fleeing.
The French
That's
are fleeing.
close to what it was when Eisenhower was president.
Well, yeah, you know what? There was a time when
was about
tax rates got
90%.
90%.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, if you got above a certain amount on personal service corporations. And some aren't waiting for the new taxes to pass. They just assume they are. They're blaming their departure on what they call the government's anti-business mentality. That kind of sounds a little like California,
Little
doesn't it?
familiar.
Yeah,
yes.
now they could easily flee to Monte Carlo or San Marino.
That's probably where they're going. Okay, thoughts for the day. When you're looking at someone you love, your pupils dilate. They do the same when you look at someone you hate. That's kind of interesting.
How do you tell the difference?
That's a good question. And more than 10 people, like this one I couldn't believe, more than 10 people a year are killed by vending machines. Now, not by the candy that's in the machines, but by the machines themselves. So I'd like to see a video of that sometime. What happens? You pretend to put a quarter in and the machine goes, no, we need our real quarter, and kills you. I know. I don't know, but I guess they fall on top of them. It's like
Yeah,
tilting a machine
yeah.
or something.
Indeed.
5 seconds to go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. Mark Hanf is off today, and we're also in the studio here with Vince Sheehan from Remax Vision. Robert, we received an email for you that says here, are you independent or do you favor one lender over another? Now, this person has obviously heard you on the shows.
And RPM Mortgage is an anomaly for some people. It's a mortgage bank. We don't have locations where you can go get a checking account. What we do is we fund loans for people for 1 to 4 residential units in California and about 10 other states. And we can fund the loan ourselves, and then the RPM will sell it off to a whole list of banks, some of which you've heard of and some of which you haven't, or we can sell it directly to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. And I have the choice of either taking the loan directly to RPM. For instance, I can take it to RPM and know they're going to sell the loan to Chase. Or I can look at Chase or some other bank and find out what their rates are and how they are fitting into the parameters for the loan we're looking at. And I have a choice of going to the bank or going outside the bank to other banks or some credit unions. And each time client comes to me and wants a loan, that's my process to go find out where I'm going to get the best deal for those people.
Yeah, and since you're totally independent and
yes.
you are
Yes.
like the smartest mortgage broker, banker we know.
I've been doing it for a while, and I'm pretty knowledgeable about what I do.
Yeah.
Other people are too, but I'm pretty good at it.
Is that 1957 you started?
Oh, let's see. You mean when I was born? Yes.
So basically then people just, and in effect, it's sort of like a one-stop shop. Really, they can just call you because then you can pretty much go out and shop to figure out which.
Absolutely, and I've been doing this for 20 years or so, and the way you have a stable, real business is to get referrals, and the way you get referrals is to have happy clients. The way you have happy clients is to find the best possible loan for them.
The rib bone's
So-
connected to them.
And I guess just to give, as a realtor, you have a choice to send somebody to a bank, just one lender, or to somebody like Robert that has a lot more flexibility. It can work either way, but with Robert, he can put the people in a program that works for them, doesn't matter which lender he uses.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because even maybe Chase might have the best rate, but rather than go to Chase, and nothing personal against Chase, but rather than going Chase directly, go to you, and you might find that Chase does have the best rate for that particular individual.
That's right. There was one bank that always had the best rates, and we found out their nickname was Great Rate No Loan. Because they would
Almost
never
like a
close a
bait.
loan. Yes, it was. It
How
wasn't.
did they stay in business?
Well, they didn't.
Oh, there you go. Okay, that makes sense. You know, one quick thing here I saw in the paper about, changing subject for a minute here, about foreclosures down sharply. Now, I was thinking that the reason may be because people who were going to get foreclosed had already been foreclosed on. And so there weren't too many more people left to foreclose on.
I think also that the banks held back significantly on foreclosures when robo-signing became a problem, and the banks were looking at penalties and fines for foreclosing in manners that were perhaps not totally legal.
I think
They decided at that point, we better, that's my understanding or my impression, that the banks said, wait a minute, we don't want to face legal proceedings for improper foreclosures. We have to reconstruct everything, and there was a time where the foreclosures really were held back, and I think that's part of the less foreclosures happening. Also, like you said, that a lot of houses have been foreclosed on.
Yeah. And they may still, I mean, maybe the banks will start foreclosing again once things. But go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that goes back to that forgiveness letter. I think a lot of the banks were waiting to see what was going to happen with that national settlement, so they held off for a while.
How big was that settlement?
I don't know the amount. I really don't.
I don't know. It was.
I
I think it was in the hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah.
It was very.
There's a lot of
significant.
mortgages out there.
A lot
There's
of
a lot.
mortgages out there.
And I think the other reason why, especially this year, the numbers are down sharply is because the banks really are being proactive about trying to make short sales work. When we started doing short sales about 4 to 5 years ago, it
Took
could
months.
take, 6
6
months,
months,
9
yeah.
months. We've got them through in as little as 2 months now. And it's pretty
That's
substantially
pretty good.
different.
I mean,
Yeah.
to buy a house and take 2 months is not, that's not unreasonable.
No, not, I mean, a lot of times you are getting a little bit of a discount in the price if you hang in there, so it is
I
worthwhile.
wonder, who's the one who makes the decision at the bank to decide, okay, this short sale, this one works, oh, no, they're asking for way too little.
Well, have
know?
you seen ones that didn't go through that the bank said no? Because my experience has been it's taken a long time, but they've all said finally yes, okay.
Well, we have had some where the banks have just, at the end, pulled it and turned it into a foreclosure. So there have been some. So you have to, as an agent, when you're working on short sales, you have to be proactive in being in contact with the short sale people, and if there's a trustee sale date.
Now,
Now-
I'm guessing that those were first mortgages.
First or mostly first, because
Yeah.
the seconds don't have. They kind of have to wait and see what's happening.
Yep.
But on the first mortgages, if they have a trustee sale date, part of a short sale agent's job is to keep trying to get that pushed off until you receive an approval from the short sale department for that same bank.
And January the 1st, and I don't know if it's part of the same settlement with the Attorney General's, but there's a law that says after January the 1st, if your house is in foreclosure and you are trying to work out a modification or a short sale, the foreclosure can't go through while either of those other things are in process.
Wow. I wonder, does it matter what part of the process?
Well, I mean,
You know, you're
try.
sending a letter to the bank saying, hey,
if
let's
you-
talk about
Yeah,
this.
if you would start a procedure for a modification, then you've forestalled it.
Wow. And Vince, now you own Remax Vision.
Yes.
How many agents do you have?
I have 6 agents that work with me.
Okay.
Remax Vision.
And Remax is a franchise. Right.
Remax is a franchise. It's a new venture for me,
Okay.
not for Remax. They've been
Yeah.
around since '74, and the 2 owners that own Remax that started it in 1974 are still the
Wow.
owners of the
That's the one with the big
Wow.
balloon.
Yeah,
Wow.
and now they're in 90 countries and 90,000
Wow.
agents.
Okay, guys, we're going to cut to our third commercial break here. Here's the trivia question. Again, this one, I don't know how hard it is. The Oakland A's had 3 Rookies of the Year in a row. 1986, 87, and 88. Name all three. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. Again, Mark Humph will be back with us next week. We're also in the studio here with Vince Sheehan, who owns Remax Vision. When we cut to the third commercial break, we asked this trivia question. The Oakland A's had 3 Rookies of the Year in a row, 1986, 87, and 88. Vince, you thought you knew the answer.
Brad Pitt and
Brad
Moneyball.
Pitt in Moneyball. No, that is not correct.
And I don't know.
And it wasn't Babe Ruth.
It wasn't Babe.
No.
It wasn't Raleigh Fingers.
No, it wasn't. Come on, 1980s.
Yeah, I know.
Ready? Jose Canseco. It was 86.
86.
Mark McGuire.
Mark McGuire's 1987. And Walt Weiss in 1988.
Earlier this year, there was a big fight in Congress about raising the federal debt limit, and the result of that was that everybody finally, after much duress, agreed to raise the debt limit with the provision that there would be a special committee that would get together and figure out what to do to make sure that we didn't have to raise the federal debt limit again, as we've been doing for the last decade or 2 decades, and come up with some plan to reduce the debt. And they were under the sort of acts, executioner's acts, that either they would come up with a plan, or if they didn't, then January the 1st, there would be a huge change in the tax laws.
So they all had to play nice in the sandbox.
They had to play nice in the sandbox, and they just could not find a way to do
They
it.
couldn't play nice in the sandbox.
Couldn't play nice.
They couldn't
in the
play well with
sandbox.
others.
So what happened is, unless they learn, and our representatives learn a way to play nice in the sandbox, coming January the 1st, there's huge changes in the tax law. There's huge budget cuts that are not open to negotiation. They will happen January the 1st. There's just within the federal government, they said that there's going to be tax cuts that are the equivalent of over $1 trillion sweeping across almost every part of the federal government, including
give an
defense.
Okay. Well, now tax cuts or budget cuts?
Well, it's budget cuts.
Okay, budget cuts. Okay.
And some of the ones that may not be the largest amounts of money but apply to the most people are, a lot of people have been unemployed, and the government has been extending their unemployment benefits. January the 1st, that will stop. So everybody that's on extended unemployment will not receive unemployment money after January the 1st unless we can learn how to play in the sandbox.
And what, extend the benefits some more?
No, they
No, or else they'll...
or else they'll continue to extend them. But
Okay.
the
I mean, it can't extend them
So
indefinitely.
there'll be a big cut in Medicare and the things that Medicare will pay for, and who's going to provide the Medicare benefits. There's a lot of the tax deductions that are going to expire. For instance, I think the estate tax is going to go back to what it was. Anything over $1 million, I think, on January the 1st will be taxable.
Yeah,
And that's something like a 50% tax, so there's
So-
huge...
So as of right now, that's happening January 1st unless they reach a new agreement.
That's legislated, yes. That's,
Okay.
What's that going to do to the economy?
They say here that add it all up, and we're taking policy changes equal to about 4% of the total economy. So if that happens, that's not real good for the seeing us get out of the recession and heading towards a better economy.
But
It will be,
keep raising the debt ceiling isn't the answer either, though, is it? Just keep printing money?
Well, I'm not sure that raising debt ceiling and printing money are the same thing, and we've been raising the debt ceiling for decades and decades, and I really don't know if raising the debt ceiling and having the federal debt be a smaller amount of the total numbers in the economy, and that may not be a bad thing. I think if you look and see what countries are thriving and what countries have certain levels of debt, they don't necessarily go together, that the countries with the least debt...
What's a
are
quadrillion here and a quintillion there?
Yeah, suddenly it becomes money.
It
Yeah.
suddenly becomes money, exactly.
Does it affect any of the congressmen's pay or pensions?
Now, what have you been drinking?
I want a job where I keep giving myself a
Yeah.
raise all the time. Nobody
Yes.
can say anything.
Yeah, they'll just have to get a bigger sandbox.
A big- well, that to me is one of the things, the first thing that should happen is to vote people in who absolutely have to promise and actually follow through. And if they don't, they get thrown out, where they lower their pay. Most of these people who go to most people who go to Congress are rich anyway. They don't need.
I think
extra money.
almost everyone in Congress is a millionaire.
Yeah, and that's not enough, right? They have to have free postage when they leave and all this other kind of fun stuff.
So it's more of a hobby.
Yeah, well, we were talking about this off air, that the original founding fathers, when they were
Yeah.
done in Congress, they went back to farming and all that other stuff. In fact, didn't you say that they actually paid to become a congressman?
Well,
of course,
it
they kind of do that
cost
now
them
anyway.
money, and
Yeah.
and they were certainly not doing it as a way of solidifying their economic future.
Yeah, it wasn't a
And
retirement
certain-
situation
yeah,
for them.
Certainly now, if you're in Congress, there probably are some lobbyists knocking at your door, and probably a future after your elected time in Congress goes by. There have been laws that said that you can't become a lobbyist within several years after you've been in Congress, but there are other things that they can do in between those couple of years. So,
I can only imagine.
I think so.
Vince, any last words before we... Oh, you said you had a quick real estate joke.
Well, yeah,
You have about 45 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah,
this is not
The real
R-
estate-
This is not R-rated.
no, not R-rated at all. Obviously, the real estate business is a little competitive, so one broker decided to open up on a certain corner, and he put up a sign that said "Best Agents," and he started to do pretty well. So on the other corner, another guy opened, and it said "Lowest Commissions." So a third guy opened right in between them, and it said "Enter here."
There you go. Exactly. I love that. Okay, here's our thoughts for the day. Thank you, first of all, Vince. Thank you very much for joining us in the studio here.
Thank you.
Okay, thoughts for the day. Just 20 seconds of fuel remained when Apollo 11's lunar module landed on the moon. I'd say that was cutting it just a
Wow.
bit
Is that
close.
true?
That's apparently true.
Amazing.
It says it here on the piece of paper, so it must be true, right?
You got it on
And
the internet.
Robert, I got a question for you. If you had to choose between your wife and winning the lottery, what kind of car would you buy first? I'm sorry. I know you love your wife, and I'm just teasing you. And with that, we invite you to tune in next. I always tease Robert. He's a
If I chose wrong, it would be a hearse.
very good. I like that. All right, audience, tune in next week to the Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long.